Hello and welcome to my podcast, Up Your Total Glow, your podcast for your body, mind, and soul to support, guide, and empower you to uncover your most glowing, healthiest, and feel good version of you. I am super excited that you are here because if you ask me, there's nothing that looks and feels better. In today's episode, I'm speaking with the absolutely wonderful Shelley Loving. Shelley is a certified nutrition chef who is passionate about teaching others how to cook a little healthier. In this interview, Shelley shares how after her husband's massive heart attack, she became immediately passionate about learning to eat healthier. Shelley speaks about inflammatory and anti-inflammatory foods, about enjoying healthy eating, and making little changes with huge effects. What I love most about Shelley is that she speaks to the everyday person. If you would like to uplift your health with food, without sacrificing enjoyment or overcomplicating things, then this interview is a must listen for you. Please enjoy. Hello, Shelley. I am so excited to have you here today. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Ruth, for having me. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
So am I. And I'm very grateful that you are taking this time out of your evening. Our different time zones work only in that way. And I really appreciate that because I feel the evening time is really the time for us to recuperate and settle down. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure.
I would love to hear a little bit more about you, obviously. So could you introduce yourself to my audience? Who are you and why are you so passionate about what you do?
Sure. My name is Shelley Loving, and I live in Texas in the United States. And I am a certified nutrition chef, a published author, and a speaker. But I haven't always been the healthiest of eaters. I wouldn't say I was the worst eater, but until I knew what I know now, I would consider myself an unhealthy eater. Sadly, most good things come from tragic events. And 10 years ago this week, actually,
Wow.
my husband had a massive heart attack. He had 100% blockage in one of his arteries, and he was 41. He did not have a history of heart disease in his family. He was not overweight. He was not, as you would look on the outside, unhealthy. So it was a complete shock to us. I was almost in denial when they told us that he was having a heart attack. I was like, what? What do you mean? Because we thought he had the flu. Fast forward, he had a stent put in. The doctor, right before they released us after 3 days in the hospital, he said, your husband's going to be on 7 medications. Or he told my husband, here are your 7 medications. And then my husband was like, okay, and how long do I take these? And he was like, what do you mean? Basically, that was his prognosis. Here's your stent, go heal, but here's 7 medications to do it. And we were not okay with that. My husband also had undiagnosed sleep apnea. So I kind of told him, if you'll handle that part, go get the CPAP machine, the sleep study, and get that fixed, I'm going to handle our nutrition because clearly we need to change some things. So I went down this rabbit hole of trying to eat healthier. And, like most people, whenever you have a health scare, you start Googling to death. So I was like Googling heart healthy recipes, ways to heal your heart with food. And some things were great, but there was a lot of contradicting information. So we were very serious about him not being on those medications forever. So I said, I'm going to go to nutrition school. And he was like, what? I said, yes, that's what I'm doing. And he's fully supported it. And I said, if I do this, we both have to do the work. And he's like, okay. So I went to my first nutrition school for a year. What I would do was I would learn a lesson in the school, and then I would apply it to our lives. Learn, apply, learn, apply. I did that for a year. And then after that, I went to another nutrition school and a culinary school. But back to the first school, my biggest aha moment in that school was the section on chronic inflammation and how it affects our health and how it is the root cause of most health issues today. And all of these light bulbs went on, all of my blinders came off. And I was like, what in the world? I've never even heard this concept. And so they started talking about anti-inflammatory foods and then foods that cause inflammation. And so what I did was I just slowly started applying all this to our daily life. Like I was very strict about it to see if it worked. Long story made longer. 3 years later, so he would go to his cardiologist every 6 months. 3 years later, he had completely reversed the damage that his heart attack had caused. And I attest that 75% to what we were eating and probably 25%, maybe 15% to the CPAP and maybe another 10% to lifestyle. But it's sustainable because we did it in a very doable way. I applied baby steps week after week after week for years into our life when it comes to our foods, and it works. And now my husband, 10 years later, I can't believe it's been that long. He's healthier than he's ever been. I'm healthier than I've ever been. And it's all done through baby steps, through just making better food choices without deprivation, without dieting. I don't sell a product. I just teach people how to get in their own kitchen, roll up their sleeves, and just do a little bit of work towards healthier living. And it all starts with what we eat.
I love it. Thank you so much. What a powerful introduction. Let's unpack one bit at a time. So first of all, I really love that you and your husband said, "Woo, we don't believe this is it," that, at 41, he has to take, I think you said 7 medications for the rest of his life, just to kind of maintain his health. I love that you both went, no, okay, and there must be something better out, and I'll find the solution. Clearly, that I believe that our bodies have the innate ability to reset, to rejuvenate, to heal, to rebalance, because this is what my journey showed me, and this is what I see my clients all the time. And I know you now see it as well. But I just love that you had this intuition and said, no, this is not how we roll, and we're going to find the way. Very, very empowering. So thank you for your courage and for your determination, because obviously you didn't know. You were just really following, your heart, your intuition. And
to pause for a second, no disrespect to the cardiologist. He did a fabulous job at what he does. He saved my husband's life.
Absolutely. Of course.
And he put a Band-Aid on the situation going forward. I have mad respect for him. He just doesn't know what he doesn't know. It's like trying to get a plumber to be an engineer. They're not the same job. Cardiologists in particular are not trained much in nutrition at all. So why would he know? He knows how to prescribe drugs to keep people alive after he saves their lives. So I just thought, well, we both agreed that wasn't our destiny. We wanted to live a holistic life. We wanted to live a vibrant life. He was only 41. So in defense of the cardiologist, love him to death. My husband still sees him every year and a half. And now my husband's down to 1 medication, by the way. I want to make that real clear that we're very grateful for the Western medicine that we needed in an emergency situation. We didn't want that to be our future forever. We just did not want the prescription drug life if there was another option.
Absolutely. And I 100% agree with you. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my emergency operation. Same thing. I couldn't be more grateful to my amazing brain surgeon. Totally respect the Western medicine, but obviously true health comes from within. And yes, as you said, unfortunately, this is not what medical students learn. So it's not their fault. It's not that they do anything wrong. They do everything perfectly right by the books. But we now know that there's so much more. There's so much more innate wisdom. And I just really love that you trusted your intuition, even though he did an amazing job and saved his life. And, you know, definitely both of you wouldn't be where you are now without him. Yeah, clearly.
Yes.
Thank you for making this point. As well, I'm completely not against Western medicine. I love it if we can work together, because I think complementary, this is where we really have power, because truly, I don't want anyone to come to me when they, have a brain aneurysm or a heart attack. I'm not the right person, then please. And probably you either. After, yes, after care or before, ideally. Yeah.
100%. I just love to help people learn that it is okay to take ownership of your health. Don't be so dependent on what the professionals tell you. Just do your homework and then trust your instincts and go with what is right for you, but just own it. Don't be so reliant on the information that you're given, no matter who it comes from. Own your health, do your research, and then make the decisions that are best for you. So I'm here, like you, to help others have another avenue for healing in addition to whatever else they're going through, right?
Absolutely. And I love that. And I do think this is an important point, because as you mentioned, the doctors haven't learned this other path, so they don't know. All they can do is prescribe and operate. And it is very it is not empowering. It's the opposite of empowering. So yes, you might have to take these medications, but what else can you do to empower yourself and to really help your body heal, to get back into those innate healing mechanisms? There was something else that you mentioned, and I think this is really, really important. I would like to dive deeper into, because this is what I see every day as well, and it drives me crazy. You mentioned you thought you were living a healthy life, both of you, and you couldn't believe he had a heart attack. So clients come to me all the time for various reasons. Let's say they want to lose weight, because this is a very minor issue. I don't think I would step on anyone's feet if I mention this as an example. And they come to me and they say, I do everything right. I do everything by the books. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm eating so healthy. And I'm like, okay, yeah, fantastic. Can you just write down what you're actually eating? Because there is so much misunderstanding around what does it truly mean to eat healthy? What does it really look like? And this is where I would like for you to dive deeper in. So what did your diet look like before? And you already touched a little bit upon, yes, all these anti-inflammatory foods, but can you unravel this a little bit more, please?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before, we were a typical family. We had 3 teenage boys at the time. They're all grown and gone now, but at the time, and I was your typical worked a full-time job. Every week I was like, what am I making? What's on Pinterest? Oh, this recipe looks good. Buy the ingredients, make it, feed the family, on to the next meal. That was and then we would eat out a couple of nights a week. We would eat fast food maybe once a week. We were not like fast food every night. We were not eating out every night. We cooked more than we went out, but I didn't know what I was putting in the recipes. It called for a can of cream of chicken soup. That's what I bought. And so I didn't realize there was so much power and control in knowing the ingredients that you're putting in the foods that you make, and being familiar with the ingredients that are in the foods when you eat out. So after this event and I went through school, I just started reading. My first step was really reading a food label. Like, I didn't understand that we didn't need to concentrate so much on the nutrition facts. This is my personal teachings, but I teach people who are, my typical audience is suffering from something. And so to keep them from being overwhelmed, I encourage them to stop looking at the nutrition facts for a little bit. Don't look at the calories, don't look at the carbs, don't look at the sodium count. Don't look there. To really understand what you're eating, we should be looking at the ingredient list to know what is in the food, because that's the whole story of the food that you're eating. And never had this occurred to me ever one time prior to this heart attack. So now I read every label, and there are some hard stops on certain ingredients that if it contains these ingredients, it goes back on the shelf and it does not go in my grocery basket at all. Now, there is some flexibility. I am all about balance, and that we can get into that later, but I love to teach people to indulge in the foods that you love in moderation, but on your day-to-day eating and your day-to-day recipes on a Tuesday night, use the ingredients that are, I call them Shelley approved, that are not inflammatory. So that was the biggest shift that we made, was really reading an ingredient list and trying to avoid those foods and the ingredients that cause chronic inflammation in our body. I wanted to keep the chronic inflammation down and reduce it down. And I would, sidebar, I was doing all of this to heal my husband. And what I didn't realize is as I was eating the same thing I was feeding him, I started healing too. And I didn't know that I had any issues. I just had symptoms that I've had my whole life. And as I adhered to an anti-inflammatory diet, my symptoms went away and I've never felt better. So as we were both going on this journey of an anti-inflammatory lifestyle, it's just crazy how things changed. So that was probably the biggest thing. Read a food label and avoid those ingredients that cause chronic inflammation. Because, and the reason before I stop talking, I'm talking way too much, but the reason that I focus on inflammation is whenever we can get the chronic inflammation down in our bodies are able to fight off things that come our way: sickness, illness, virus, disease, chronic conditions. But when our body is inflamed and our bodies are fighting inflammation because we're constantly inflamed, our bodies can't fight off those other things. It can't fight both. So if we could get that inflammation down in our body, then our bodies are able to stay stronger and healthier to fight off the things that come our way.
Absolutely. And inflammation is huge. Chronic inflammation, I should say, is
Right.
huge and very prevalent everywhere. And the tricky thing with chronic inflammation is that it is very silent until it
Yes.
screams in your body, and then it's too late. Exactly what you described with the heart attack. So can you please explain what foods are pro-inflammatory and how do you swap them out now?
So I have a list of like 4 or 5 or 6 top inflammatory foods. There's a lot, but let me just put them into some categories so people can easily understand. And if you're listening, get out a pen and paper because you're going to want to write this down. I get people all the time saying, "Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?" So the number one food, and some of these are in order. The top 2 or 3 are very important. The other ones are all pretty much the same, but number 1 in my book is refined seed oils. So those are oils that you're going to find on the shelves and or in your processed foods. So the number 1 is going to be like vegetable oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, palm oil in America. Some palm oils are healthy in other countries. Here in America, we don't typically find palm oil on the shelf. We only typically find it in processed foods, and it is not a good version of palm oil. So we also want to avoid things like safflower oil, peanut oil. All of these oils go through an extensive process in a factory to get into a clear plastic bottle with an eternal shelf life. They're cheap to make, but they're extremely inflammatory. So whether you're buying an oil to cook or you're looking at the ingredient list on a processed food, make sure those seed oils are not in at least the top 5 ingredients. That's my number 1. Number 2 would probably be dairy. Sorry, I know people, they cringe when I say that, but unless you have a cow in your backyard and you're using it sparingly, processed dairy that you get at the grocery store, no matter if it's cheese, sour cream, milk, ice cream, butter, no matter what it is, if it comes from a cow, it is inflammatory because our bodies are not meant to process that liquid on a daily basis. It's that liquid, that milk is made to feed a calf to grow into a 1-ton animal very quickly. Our body can't process that. Our bodies aren't meant to process that. So it causes inflammation in our body because our body's like, whoa, foreign object. And if you're consuming it daily, multiple times a day, because people are eating it breakfast, lunch, and dinner now, when you're consuming it multiple times a day, your body's like, can't do it. So it's got to get inflamed, to treat it like a foreign object. So that would be number 2. Number 3 would probably be artificial sweeteners. So anything like aspartame containing, anything in those yellow, pink, and blue packets. I'm assuming y'all have that in your country, on like restaurant tables and stuff. We want to avoid those. Any products that say sugar-free, but they're sweet. So like a processed cookie that says sugar-free or low sugar, most likely they have artificial sweeteners in them. So artificial sweeteners cause inflammation because they're fake. They are artificial. It is a foreign chemical going in our body, and our bodies are like, what's happening? So with artificial sweeteners, when you consume them, they're 0 calorie. They promote it that way. They're like, yay, 0 calorie. Well, the bad thing is about that, our body uses sugar for energy. So when we're consuming artificial sweeteners, it's sweet on the tongue. The body doesn't know the difference. So the body's like, oh, yay, sugar. I'm going to get energy from this. Well, there's no calories in artificial sweeteners. So our bodies chase the calorie. So that's why they're so addicting. Our bodies are constantly looking for the calorie to burn energy, and it's not coming. So artificial sweeteners on the inflammatory list. Then after that, I would do gluten and white refined sugar. Those are the other 2 that I would add to the list. Well, everybody knows white refined sugar is not healthy. I don't need to go down the bandwagon on that. I just want to state that it is inflammatory, and we should be very sparse on when we eat it and consume it.
Thank you very much for sharing. Very helpful. And I love how you make this very easy. You unpack it in a very simple, easy way. And I think that's very important because this is really empowering and this is doable. And we understand why.
Yeah.
And it gives us a roadmap.
I'm going to be honest with you, Ruth.
Yeah.
I teach that way because that's how I learn. Like I don't have I did not get my doctorate. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist or a dietitian. So I needed to understand the information in a simple way. So if I'm teaching and educating everyday home cooks and moms and grandmothers, if I'm teaching them, I know that it's going to help them to be explain things in a very simple way. So some people may not like my simple approach, but I'm not going to change my ways. I want to talk to people so they can understand and actually apply it to their life.
I think it's very empowering and very helpful. And I actually had clients who have done nutrition courses to empower themselves, but found them very, very overwhelming. And so when we together unpack them, I quite like to keep it also simple. And for example, go about the colors of the foods, especially if someone is a little bit scared about food and how much to eat. And so I think there is power in simplicity. I think we all kind of love that. And yes, of course, if we've got a high degree, it might be boring to us, but I think then this is a very different audience. I would like to dive deeper into 3 of the foods you mentioned. So absolutely agree with all of these. I just wanted to point out that when our bread stays soft, obviously I'm talking about the bread that we are buying in the supermarket. And yes, again, if you look at the ingredient list, which Shelley said before, you will see there is vegetable oil in. And this is the kind of oil Shelley is talking about. I just wanted to point this out because bread is not made to stay soft. A bread that is baked, with healthy ingredients will become stale. So this is just a very easy, simple way to know hands off this bread. This is not what Shelley would like you to eat. Then the other thing that you mentioned is around milk. And I think this is a super important point. And I would just like to add here that the dairy that we are eating today has changed so much from what it could have or what it did look like in earlier times. So, and you touched upon this, you said, you know, if you have a cow in the backyard and here and there consume, sorry that I'm saying this, but raw milk, not that I'm advocating for people to have raw milk unless they really trust this. I don't want anyone to become sick. So this is not what I'm saying, but raw milk looks very different to the milk that we are consuming these days. And on top of this, those cows have been kept pregnant forever, and are not really allowed to feed their calves. So this is a horrible condition. So they themselves have chronic inflammation. And then if we drink that milk, all the antibiotics that they have been given, plus the chronic inflammation, yeah, we are drinking parts of this too. So I think this is a really important point to make. So totally with you on those sugar alternatives. What is your take on stevia? Because this is a sugar alternative. It is obviously a plant. Have you got any thoughts on that? Because I know there's a lot of debate around healthier sugar options. And what is your thought on stevia, and what other sugars would you recommend, or would you simply recommend to go about moderation, something you mentioned before, and use maybe a less processed form of sugar?
So I'm okay. In my opinion, stevia is okay if you read the label and it's 100% from the leaf. So they're really good at marketing today. So some of the artificial sweeteners will say they're stevia, but they've got other things in them. So again, go back to the rule of thumb of read the food label and look at the ingredient list. Stevia, 100% from the leaf, I'm okay with. Use it sparingly. It's 10 times sweeter than sugar, so you don't need very much. My two favorite sweeteners are raw local honey and maple syrup, pure maple syrup. Read the label, make sure there's nothing else in it. I'm going to say that a lot, so hopefully people will remember. Those are really good sweeteners. You know, they are natural. They come from Mother Earth. Honey doesn't spike our blood sugar like white refined sugar does, and neither does maple syrup. They both have antioxidants in them. My third favorite, that use it sparingly, is coconut sugar. It does come from the sap of the coconut tree and not from the actual coconut. So it does spike our blood sugar, but nothing like white sugar. So I'm okay with coconut sugar in moderation. So those are my three favorites. And then I am okay with stevia if it's 100% from the leaf.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So when someone comes to you and now says, well, okay, sounds all amazing, I really want to change and I want to look better, feel healthier, but you know, I hate restricting myself. I hate all this dieting stuff. It never works for me. So what does eating in balance look like for you? How can we really eat healthily and yet enjoy life without hurting our bodies?
Yeah, so my personal journey was about a 2 or 3 year process where we worked hard. And that was because of his near-death experience. So for people that haven't had that experience, it's harder because it's just whispering. And so that's where it's hard. And so I want to encourage those people, if you know you have something going on, you don't have to hit the reset button. You don't have to empty your pantry and fridge, follow an anti-inflammatory diet exclusively. That just sets ourselves up for failure. I am a big proponent of small steps, try one thing at a time. And then I also love the 80-20 rule. Ideally, we want to try to eat 80% real whole foods, anti-inflammatory lifestyle, read the ingredients. 20% of the time, enjoy what you love. If you're out with your girlfriends, have the charcuterie board, drink the wine. If it's your dad's birthday, eat the cake. If you've had soccer practice and you didn't prepare anything for dinner, it's okay to take a drive-through every now and then. Just try to pick a healthier one instead of something like, I don't know if y'all have Taco Bell where you are, but something like that is not good. So I try to teach people balance because I'm going to be honest, I drink red wine. Every now and then I'll eat some cheese and crackers. It's not in my daily rotation. I don't keep it stored in my fridge. But I also want to enjoy the things I love. On the holidays, I'm going to eat my grandmother's pumpkin pie. That's just what's going to happen. I don't care what's in it. I love it. And I want to show people and encourage people to stop having shame and guilt around the foods that they love if they can start having their health top of mind and make better choices throughout the week, if that makes sense.
Makes total sense. And I love it. I love that you touched upon including love and joy in all of this, and also our bodies and minds are stressed out, and stress leads to inflammation as well. So the more stress we put upon ourselves, the less it will probably work, or the harder it will be, and also the more time it will take. So I really, really think this is super important, and it's, for me, it's always really important. I know you think the same way, to really individualize our lifestyle and our diet, because we all have a different predisposition. We have different lives, different situations, different bodies, different gender, different ages. So all of this is really, really important to take into account. And yes, also the different taste. And I'm pretty sure you can attest to this as well, that when we start off on this journey, our taste buds are different to what your taste buds are now. So our taste buds will change. And again, this is what you said, it takes time, little baby steps, and allow for this time. Really be gentle with yourself. I love your work. I love what you do there. And I think that's very, very empowering and powerful. I would love to hear, what does your diet look like? So what does a typical day in terms of diet look like for you?
I love that question because for anyone that follows me after this on social media, you'll learn very quickly, I am very transparent.
Awesome.
I believe in that. I try my hardest to practice what I preach. I am not perfect. So in all honesty, this is typically my routine, but sometimes it's not. Typically in the morning, we always eat a good big breakfast. It's different every day. Sometimes sometimes it's a hodgepodge breakfast. Like if I have a bunch of little things in the fridge, we'll just pull them all out. Or sometimes I'll make an omelet, sometimes we'll just have either avocado toast or just avocado, sweet potato, and egg. So we get the healthy fat, the fiber, and the protein. Sometimes we have chia pudding and top it with fresh fruit. Every day is different, but breakfast is super important. Then for lunch, we usually have leftovers. I don't have time to cook 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. And I tell everybody that's not doable. So don't think that healthy living requires you to be in the kitchen 8 hours a week, because it doesn't. And so we are big lovers of leftovers in this family. And my husband is super sweet and supportive of that because he doesn't do the cooking. So for anybody that's listening and you are the cook in the family and your people in your family say they don't like leftovers, I encourage you to put your foot down and tell them that you're the one doing the cooking and you prefer not to cook every meal for them, and to try the leftovers. So we do that for lunch. And then snacks, it's kind of funny. My husband is all about the protein. Most men are. So we always try to have protein rich recipes. And then for dinner, I do it different every night, but typically I do a good lean protein, a veggie, and sometimes a starch. It just depends on how tired I am. I do like to get creative. I'll do casseroles, and I just try to, I don't try. I use anti-inflammatory ingredients, and I do get creative once or twice a week because I'm always trying new things. That's typically our diet. And then on the weekends, I shut the kitchen down after Saturday breakfast. Unless Sunday morning we get up and I'm like, ooh, let's do something fun like omelets or something. Typically the kitchen is shut down for a day and a half. I cook for a living and I get exhausted. And in order for my cup not to be completely empty, I have to give myself a break. So typically on the weekends, I don't cook. We usually eat out on Sunday lunch and maybe Friday night dinner. And it's different every week. So that's typically our schedule. My biggest advice would be the leftover part. Fall in love with leftovers.
I love it. And there was so much self-care in there as well. So when you said, put your foot down, if the other members of the family are not keen on leftovers, I loved what you said there. And I would even say, well, if you don't like it, feel free to cook for yourself.
Absolutely.
you know
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, it's not fair for people that don't do the cooking to require that of someone,
Yeah.
that's it's not fair. So yeah.
And
luckily my husband's on board.
Yeah, that's mine as well. Very lucky with that. But I fully agree. Truth is that most women are not, and I'm saying only, I don't mean that it's an easy job, but most women these days do not only stand in the kitchen for the cooking, but also have a full-time or half-time job and babies or teenagers, maybe a dog,
Laundry.
and 10,000 other things to manage. So yes, this is a shout out to all women to really
Amen.
look after themselves. The other thing about self-care you mentioned, and I think this is really, really beautiful, that you shut down the kitchen for 1.5 days because you do that for a living and you want to fill up your own cup. And this can look different for all of us, but I think it's such a beautiful and important point. And you said it without guilt, like one could think, because, you teach this and you empower others with this. So maybe it feels wrong to shut down the kitchen for 1.5 days and go out for eating. But this really mirrors what you said before, that you practice what you preach, that you are all about balance. I'm sure you also know where to go to eat foods that make you feel good if you want to. So I think this is just very beautiful. So thank you for sharing and for empowering others through this.
You're so welcome. This was
Shelley,
wonderful.
is there anything else that you're doing in terms of your routine that you feel supports this anti-inflammatory lifestyle, maybe in terms of movement, or I don't know, the way you structure your day? Is there anything else that you would say is really important or helpful for empowering us to live a healthier, happier life?
Oh, that's a great, I've never been asked that question, and I love that question. Yes, very much so. There are 3 things that come top of mind, because I wasn't prepared for this question, but there are 3 things that pop in my head. Number 1 is sleep. I adore it. Sleep is my best friend. I'm blessed that I've always loved to sleep. I was the first one to fall asleep at sleepovers when I was a kid. I'm the first one to leave a party because I'm tired. I am not afraid of sleep. I don't feel like I need to deprive myself of it to be social. It's very important to me and my husband that both of us get at least 7 hours, sometimes 9.5. So we have a routine, an evening routine, and that has helped us tremendously with our not only self-care, but just our vitality. So at 9 o'clock, I shut down. I turn off my phone at 8 p.m. and put it on Do Not Disturb and don't turn it back on until 7. So I have 11 hours of no phone time. That's important. Another thing is meditation. Even just stillness. It doesn't have to be, sitting Indian style and putting your hands on your knees and closing your eyes and listening to music. It just sits still for 5 minutes a day, whether that's, maybe listening to some instrumental music on Spotify while you're just sitting outside on your patio, whatever it is for you. But I believe that stilling our mind every day, even if it's just 5 minutes, more if you have time, is really important for our mental health. And then my third one would be water. Water is very underrated. Consuming water, I could go on for a whole hour on the benefits of water, and everybody knows we should be drinking it, but people don't really understand the importance of it. Our brains need water, our eyeballs need water, our joints, our organs, everything needs water. And so most of us today are dehydrated. So I tell people as a general rule, try to drink double your weight in ounces. So if you weigh 100 pounds, or half your weight, sorry. If you weigh 100 pounds, try to drink 50 ounces of water every day. Just make that a goal. It doesn't mean you're a failure if you don't, because there's days when I don't. But I weigh 125 pounds. So my minimum water intake every day is 50 to 60 ounces. I don't falter from that. So it's amazing how much better I feel, how much more energy I have, how much my body is able to stay healthier because of it. So those would be my top 3 things that I can think of off the top of my head.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. Very empowering. Okay, where can we find your amazing book?
Oh, thank you. So you can find it on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And the book is called What's on Your Fork. It's a cookbook, but it's kind of more than a cookbook. It has a notes section in every recipe, so you can take your own notes if there's ingredients that you switch out.
Awesome.
It's got stories, like within the chapters. It has personal stories and helpful motivational stories throughout the book. And then every recipe has a picture. I think we all eat with our eyes. And so I want people to look at the food and say, wow, that's pretty. I don't know how pretty the pictures are. I took them myself, but I'm proud of them because it's my first cookbook and I didn't want to pay a photographer. And so I just think it's important to
I have
learn
to compliment you on this. Sorry for interrupting, but I have written my own book and there are also recipes in, and I got a photographer for it because it is so hard to have really good food pictures. It is a whole different thing to, having good pictures of someone or even moving. Or the environment, like food pictures are a whole new level. So I really have to compliment you on this. This is amazing. Well done.
Thank you so much. And one last thing that I do with my every recipe in the book, it tells you the good source of healthy fat, protein, and fiber, because I believe you need those at every meal in order to have a balanced diet. And so every recipe tells you, okay, well, the healthy fat in this recipe is X. And so I think that's helpful, just so people understand the why behind the recipes rather than just throwing a bunch of food recipes at them. So yeah, thank you for asking. That book
sounds
is my baby.
Amazing. I will definitely look that book up. And what's your favorite recipe in it?
Oh, I have been asked this question. I have 2 probably. Yeah, chicken tortilla soup. And then my other one would probably be the cheesy broccoli casserole. And again, everything is dairy and gluten-free. So I try to put healthy spins on favorite recipes. Like here in America, especially, I'm from Texas, so we eat a lot of Mexican food, but it can be unhealthy. And so that chicken tortilla soup is probably my favorite because it is so delicious, but it is actually really healthy.
Sounds amazing. I love it. Absolutely wonderful. I love the idea of putting a healthy spin on favorites. And I think this is really beautiful. And I do think we can do this with every dish. Like
Yeah.
there are so simple hacks how we can make them even more delicious, more palatable, and we will feel so much more amazing if we do this. Okay, I know we are going over time, so here are my last questions for you. Could you please give my audience 3 golden nuggets? And I know you've already given me so much beautiful wisdom and information, but if my audience now would like to remember you and your amazing wisdom, could you put it or sum it up into 3 golden nuggets? What is the most important for you that they remember?
Wow. Healthy is not an overnight fix. We don't get healthy overnight. I mean, unhealthy overnight. So be patient with yourself. Show yourself grace when you're on a healthier journey, trying to either heal or improve your health. Be patient with yourself. Number 2 would be read the food labels. Once you learn to read the ingredient list on a food label, you have all the power in your health.
Agreed.
And number 3, really learn what foods cause inflammation and what foods reduce inflammation, because there's both, and we can't just do one or the other. So empowering yourself with learning what foods are causing havoc and what foods are helping is super important for improving your health. Those would be my 3.
Love them. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If someone listens to this now or watches it and says, oh my goodness, I've been waiting for Shelley all my life. Do you also do online work or only one-on-one in the same location?
I don't do any one-on-one work, and I don't do any in-person stuff. Everything I do is online and mostly in group environments. So people can go to my website, shelleycanhelp.com, and learn more about what I have to offer. And then the best way to learn about me and keep going with me is social media and or join my newsletter. I do have an online membership that I open up to the public 3 times a year. And I only do that because if I just let people in all the time, I really can't focus on the members that are in there. Right now, we have about 80 women in there. And then I'm going to be opening the doors again in March. And so that is just my online way for people to come together in a community. We cook together. We have recipes, recipe videos, guest speakers, live events, meal prepping classes. It's kind of like an all-encompassing Shelley. My business is called Shelley Can Help. So it's like an all-encompassing Shelley Can Help, but it's in an online environment. So anyone from anywhere can join. We have the sweetest, most welcoming members in there. And so we help each other. I'll have one lady comment and say, hey, I need a good ingredient substitute for X recipe. And another lady will say, oh my gosh, here you go, use this. It's just like everybody comes together for one another. So I think I'm really proud of that membership. It's only a year old, but it's amazing and it's growing rapidly. And so that would be a really good way that people could keep going with me if they're serious about this. But I would start off with social media and then join my weekly newsletter, because I really give some great information in my weekly email.
I love it. And I do believe we are connected on social media. So your main social media is Instagram. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, my main one is Instagram, and then I'm on all of them. Pinterest, you name it, I'm on it. And they're all Shelley Can Help. You can find me anywhere Shelley Can Help.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And I will, of course, make sure I put all of this into the show notes. Is there anything, dear Shelley, that we haven't touched upon today that is so important to you to still share with my audience?
No, I think we covered most of my important things. And the reason that I speak on podcasts is just own your health, own what is going wrong and own how you're going to go about trying to improve it. Healthy takes work, and you have to be willing to do the work. So I'm not here to throw out rainbows and unicorns and say, oh, it's so easy. It's not easy, but when your willingness to feel better outweighs your bad habits, that's when your game changes.
Absolutely. And I would just like to add, it's not easy, you're right, but it's so much more fun that you actually believe it is. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%, 100%. And then as you start feeling better, it becomes a motivation, right? And it becomes your superpower. It's like, oh my gosh, I feel a little bit better. I'm going to keep going on this journey. So be patient with yourself. And if you do the work, you will see results for sure.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time tonight, for sharing your absolute beautiful wisdom, journey, and story. I love your work, and I'm super grateful for you and that you help me and so many others to make our world a healthier, happier place. One person, one meal at a time.
Thank you. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to use your platform to share my message so that I can help as many people as I can. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for doing what you do, because you're helping so many people. And thank you for having me on your podcast.
My pleasure. Take care, beautiful.
Thank you.
If you loved and enjoyed this episode, then please help me to make our world a healthier, happier place. And you can do so by sharing this episode with just one other person. I know that you were born to live your best life, to feel absolutely amazing in your precious body, your brilliant mind, and your boundless soul. So what are you still waiting for? Please make sure you do it. I'm your biggest cheerleader. Keep glowing. Much love.